This is Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here he is, the host of the podcast, AWR Hawkins.
Welcome to Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart News podcast focused on guns, gun rights, the Second Amendment. You know, we sum these things up here each week under the banner of freedom, always have, always will, because an armed citizen is a free citizen. Simple as that. And folks, I've said this before, and I used to say it a lot more often than I do, but I want to stress, via possession of a gun, you not only defend your life, but you defend your dignity. That's especially true for women. We're going to get some good emphasis on that in the second segment. Kai Jones, formerly of the Pussycat Dolls, she's going to be our guest today, and we're going to talk about firearms and what firearms mean to women, how they equal the playing field for women. So that's just a very important message, and it's going to be good to hear her speak on that. Folks, I have a ton of shout-outs that I have to give this week, but I just wrote them down as I got them. I had Michael, who sent me a pic of his Sig Sauer P226. What a beautiful weapon, folks. It's chambered in .357 Sig. That round is a tack driver. That round is whistling. You know, you're going to get that round moving 1,300, 1,400 foot a second. It's getting it done. So, Michael, thank you. Beautiful weapon. It had a simple message from Kevin, just told me to keep up the good work on the podcast. Kev, thank you. Appreciate your comment. Rick from Europe reached out. Rick is in Europe, and he listens to the podcast each week. Jack's a buddy of mine, and he is moving to another state, and I promised him a shout-out. Matter of fact, he and I were together, bumped into each other when he was on his way out of town, and the last thing he said to me was, keep up the podcast. So shout out to Jack, man. I hope you're getting settled. I hope everything's working, and I hope that things go great for you there. It sounds like you're going to have some super opportunities. Ed emailed me about AR-15s and options with full auto on certain guns. And that's an important differentiation, and I'm going to get into that today with some stories, so I'm not going to belabor the point here. But do remember, a civilian AR-15 is semi-auto. I mean, you could purchase full automatic weapons. You're going to pay out the nose for them. But when you purchase those, you have moved from a AR-15 per se to a machine gun. The left does not recognize that differentiation, of course, because the muddier the water, the better for the left, because then they can just make all these outlandish claims and feel like they actually supported themselves. Evan reached out to me. We had a very interesting moment of correspondence. He made some points that are valid, but he reached out to me and asked me if I would quit calling leftists heathens. And I know I do tend to do that. I call them heathens. And he asked me if I would try to find another word. And I think the subject line of his email to me said something like, hello from a gun-owning heathen. And Evan went on to explain to me that he, by practice, is an atheist. I believe I'm right. He may have said something else, but I believe that is what he said. And yet he said that he owns guns and he doesn't want to be called a heathen. He doesn't want to be bunched together with everybody. He suggested some words I could call people who are anti-gun. And so I'm going to work on that. I'm going to think about that. I think I see his point, because gun ownership does cut across not only political spectrums, although more and more there is a great divide between Democrat and Republican on it, but racial barriers, gender barriers, those kinds of things, they're long gone on guns, long gone. One of the biggest demographics for gun ownership now are females. And that's definitely true with concealed carry too, females. Black gun ownership surging, especially among black females. And so the left loves to throw out that lie that guns are being bought up by the same old white men who just buy them up and stick them in the closet. There's no truth to that at all. Literally no truth at all. But anyway, just as guns have crossed all those different gaps and barriers and different things, I understand there are people who are Christian who own guns. There are people who are atheists who own guns. There are people who are agnostic that own guns. There are people who are Jewish that own guns. There are people that are Roman Catholic that own guns. I mean, I could just keep going. And so I understand Evan's point in that no need to insult gun owners who may have a different theology or philosophy. And so I'm thinking about what you said, Evan. Just want you to know that. And a shout out to you. Thanks for being out there, and thanks for taking time to reach out. Folks, there was a lot of news this week. I don't suppose any smoked servers quite as hard as the news that Attorney General Jeff Landry out of Louisiana literally dropped the hammer on Citigroup, Citibank, and Bank of America. You'll remember months ago, Citibank just put out arbitrarily new gun controls that gun store owners who are customers have to follow in order to remain customers. Remember that they said you have to quit selling long guns to citizens who are under 21. It is legal. Now, federally, it is legal to sell a long gun to 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. At the age of 18 in this country, it's long been recognized that you begin there to enjoy a full exercise of your constitutional rights. But Citibank says no. Citibank, in so many words, is asking gun stores to deny the constitutional rights of 18 to 20-year-olds. They also say that if you're a gun store customer, you can't sell quote-unquote high-capacity magazines. They also say that if you're a gun store customer, you have to handle background checks in a different way than federal law. Now, you have to comply with federal law. I'm not saying that. But then you have to go beyond it. Bank of America just came right out and said, look, there won't be any financing for companies that make quote-unquote assault weapons. So there's an infrastructure project in Louisiana, and monies have to be divvied up. There is $600 million to be awarded. Citigroup and Bank of America both applied to be part of the state bond on this and get that $600 million. And A.G. Landry said no. He said, we are not going to have Louisianans treated this way. We're not going to have corporations come in and restrict a law-abiding citizen's ability to acquire and use firearms. I cannot applaud Landry. I cannot applaud him enough. I'm serious. There just aren't many people like this. You folks in Louisiana, you need to appreciate this man. You need to rally behind this man. Attorney General Jeff Landry. He is showing you how you get it done. He's showing you how you do it. All right? Now, in just the opposite way, we had Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut this week. He is urging voters to show up and vote in November solely for the purpose of defeating the NRA. Now, I want you to think about this. You go, well, why is that a big enough story for you to really cover? Let me explain something to you. See, we forget, there are a lot of things we forget because of the onslaught, the relentless onslaught of the establishment media. There are a lot of things we forget, and I'm going to remind you. You'll remember October 1, 2017, the horrible shooting in Las Vegas. You remember that? 58 people are killed. Well, in the hours and days and weeks after that, the Democrats put forward as many gun controls as they could think of. By mid-November, we reported at Breitbart they had put forward 21 controls. Now, this got so out of hand that no less than Chuck Schumer, Senator Chuck Schumer, urged the Democrats to rein it in. He reminded them that there's a midterm coming this November. And he's basically saying, look, just save the gun control talk until after that so that they can win. And then after they win, they can go after guns. See how it works? Chris Murphy never listened. He kept pushing. In fact, after the May 18th, 2018 Santa Fe High School shooting, which was in Texas, after that shooting, He called or pressed, for an assault rifle ban. Guess what? A rifle was not even used in the attack. It was carried out with a revolver and a shotgun. This is what we're up against, folks. And now, again, just still turning his back on what Schumer said, he's now urging people to show up and vote so they can vote for gun control candidates and the NRA loses. Now, I'm of a personal opinion that I hope he talks more. Because if you learned anything in 2016, you learned, and Hillary taught us, gun control is a loser. You'll remember Hillary had declared war on the NRA. She was going to have Supreme Court cases like Heller revisited. You remember all this. It was not done in the dark. She said it in the light. And the people rejected her. And they're going to do the same thing when the Democrats run on taking your guns. When they run on this ban and that ban, the same thing is going to happen. So I'm happy. I'm happy that Murphy is talking about it. But the thing you have to remember, I mentioned the establishment media onslaught. The establishment media is trying to sell you, and they have been for years, on the fact that in their claim, I should say, that gun control is so popular. Americans want gun control so bad. Americans can't wait to get more gun control, to have an assault weapons ban. They can't wait. Americans can't wait to have their high-capacity magazines taken away. Americans can't wait to have a ban on this and a ban on that. They can't wait. That's what America wants. And they say that over and over and over again. And sometimes I think some of us, unknowingly, we accept that message. Well, remember what I just said. This is what's important about this story. Chuck Schumer's already warned, folks, don't talk about this. It's not a winner. Leading up to November, if Chris Murphy and the rest of his gang keep talking gun control, it's not going. That blue wave everyone's talking about, it's not going to be a blue wave. No, it's going to be a lot more red if they're going to keep talking about gun control. So that's why that story's big, all right? I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Look, we had this week, Shopify put out a new list, and basically if you sell commonly owned semi-automatic firearms, you can't use them anymore. The e-commerce Shopify said no. So that's the corporate gun control. It's the kind of thing that Landry addressed on the financial side. But there's a lot of corporate gun control afoot, and Shopify is just the latest. This week we had Golden State coach Steve Kerr. I just check out his Twitter feed every now and then. He's a golf ball in tall grass. You know what I'm saying? He's lost, as far as I could tell. I mean, he's a good coach, don't get me wrong. He wants more gun control. He's making fun of the NRA all the time. He's just constantly pushing and trying to shame people for not supporting more gun control. And right now, he's taking on the NRA for opposing the gun control that's been pushed and secured in Seattle. In Seattle, you'll remember, the city council passed a gun storage law. If you own a gun when you're at home, it's got to be locked up. Now, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Now, some of you, and I'm not being smart aleck, some of you are listening going, what's so crazy about that? Why are gun storage laws bad? Okay, let me answer that. What do you do if you're at home and you say you have a nice gun safe, 4 foot wide, 8 foot tall, whatever it is? That's a big old safe. I'm just saying, you know what a gun safe looks like. Let's say you got one. Got your rifles in there and you came home and you put your pistol in there and you locked it up. And you're walking to the dinner table and someone splinters your front door. And when you look, 2 intruders come running through, both of them armed. Now, at that moment, do you say to them, excuse me, can y'all hold up real quick? I got to go to the gun safe, work the combo, open it, get my gun, and then I'll be back. Is that what you do? See, you don't have that kind of time. If you ever watch videos of these attacks, real videos, not made for TV stuff. If you ever watch real video, it's on. It's quick. And they've done what they're going to do real quick to get control of the situation. If you don't have your firearm near you when that door splinters, you're not going to get your firearm. You're just not. Now, I know I've said this before, but in my house where my living room, my den, TV room, whatever you would call it, my TV room and my kitchen is kind of open there. You walk directly from one to the other. You walk away from the island in the kitchen, you take a few steps and you're at the couch where you can watch TV. So I keep a firearm right on top of that refrigerator. So it's right in the middle of that open space. And that firearm is locked and loaded. By that, I mean it's ready to go. The furthest away I am from that firearm at any given moment is 10, 11 foot, period. All right? And that may be too far. Some of you are thinking right now, that may be too far. As I said it, I thought I might have to reevaluate it. But see, that's how important this is. So when Seattle tells you, you come home, you got to lock up your gun, what are you going to do when someone breaks into your home? So the NRA, Kerr is casting them as some draconian, knuckle-dragging bunch who they're just bunch of mouth breathers, and no matter what, their knee-jerk reaction is to oppose quote-unquote sensible gun regulation. This is not sensible. This is just gun control. And the NRA opposes it because it is going to cripple Seattle residents' ability to exercise their Second Amendment when they're at home. That's it. It's that simple. So that's why the NRA is at war with it. It's also why the Second Amendment Foundation is at war with it. Speaking of those two, I'll tell you, a good thing happened this week. They won a case. They had filed their case separately, but the cases were consolidated and they both won. And their suit was against a ballot initiative in Washington, I-1639. And this is how the left works. The left presented I-1639 as just a little benign thing that was just going to raise the age for long gun purchases so that 18 to 20-year-olds couldn't buy a long gun anymore. You have to be 21. It's just a simple step to keep everybody safe. That's how it's presented. But that's a very leftist thing to do. You know, you present it as benign and people drop their guard and you get your initiative on the ballot. But there was far more. There was far more to this initiative than simply raising the age for long guns. The NRA-ILA reported that the initiative would have also created a gun registry for any transfer of commonly owned semi-automatic rifles, would have introduced a 10-day business waiting period for the purchase of semi-automatic rifles, would have imposed criminal liability on otherwise law-abiding gun owners who failed to store their firearms to state standards, would have increased the age for long gun purchases, would have mandated training prior to purchase, would have authorized a $25 fee to be assessed on semi-automatic rifle purchases. Now, folks, when you hear your government is putting a $25 fee in place, what do you understand? That's a tax. Now, tell me, what do Democrats do with taxes? When Democrats have complete control, when they can't be vetoed, when they can't be outvoted, what do they do with taxes? That's right, they raise them. So this fee, had it been put in place, would have started at $25 a gun, and this year, that's what it would have been. What would it have been next year? See, this fee alone, the fee alone, would be a tool that Democrats could use to make the purchase of commonly owned semi-automatic firearms cost prohibitive. And the ability to do that would have been the ultimate gun control. So the NRA, though, and the Second Amendment Foundation won. They won. The judge ruled that when he read the initiative made no sense. And see, this is how they write these things like gibberish so that you don't figure out what they're up to. The judge just disqualified the initiative. It will not be on the ballot in November. Does that mean they won't try in the future? No, it doesn't mean that. But it does mean it won't be on the ballot this November. And that is tremendous news. Folks, we got people getting killed left and right in Chicago, getting shot left and right in Chicago. All right? Just over the past week, we're well over 70 people, maybe over 80 people been shot. Just in the time, well, I shouldn't say it that way because we're definitely around 50 or 60 since the last podcast, definitely. What's happening? Mayor Emanuel is pushing more gun control as a solution. We covered this week. He's asking Chicago residents to pressure the Illinois governor, who's a Republican, to pressure him to put more gun control in place, particularly laws against gun trafficking. Folks, this is a sleight of hand. This is a straw man argument. Whatever you want to call it, it's ridiculous is what it is. It's already illegal to traffic firearms. Let's start there. It's already illegal. Is it making Chicago any safer? Is that illegality helping? No. But Emanuel wants to make it illegal again, I guess, or twice illegal. I don't know. When you go to buy a firearm at a retail gun store, you have to fill out a Form 4473. What's the first question on that firearm? Are you the actual buyer/transferee of this firearm? Are you? In other words, are you buying this gun for you, or are you buying it for somebody else? The very first question on the background check deals with gun trafficking. Not only that, but state laws in Illinois deal with it. It's against the law to sell a gun to somebody in Illinois. If you don't know, you have to know that they have a FOID card, which is a firearm owner's identification card, or a concealed carry permit. If you don't know that, it's against the law to sell them a gun. Folks, the laws against gun trafficking are out there. They're already there, both state level and federal level. All right? So when he calls for more laws on gun trafficking, what he's just doing is he, once again, is skirting responsibility for this mess he has created via his gun control support. Did Emanuel create it all by himself? No way. Not suggesting that. But he has done zero to make it better, because his answer for violence is always more gun control. And folks, what does that get you? That gets you weekend after weekend after weekend with 50 shot, 70 shot, 80 shot, 33 shot. That's what it gets you. And that's why I've said so many times and will continue to say, gun control is inhumane. Folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have Kaya Jones, formerly of the Pussycat Dolls, and now she is such an incredible woman and pro-gun, pro-Trump. Matter of fact, she works with President Trump's diversity coalition, and we'll save that stuff for when I'm with her. We could talk about it, but I'm just giving you a little feel. It's going to be good to hear her passion for firearms. It'll shine through clear. So we'll take a little break, and then we'll be back with her. Again, you're listening to Bullets with AWR Hawkins.
Sonny's Corner with Sonny Johnson.
I want to actually take a couple of the references to Donald Trump from hip-hop. And then we're going to try to see if we can figure out why they like Donald Trump. Jay-Z said, I'm at the Trump International. Ask for me. Raekwon said, I'm the black Trump. They are comparing themselves to what he represents. His wealth, his achievement. Capitalism.
Sonny's Corner with Sonny Johnson. Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. East on Sirius XM Patriot 125. This is Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here once again is AWR Hawkins.
Folks, welcome back to Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart News podcast, where we try to bring you guests who really give you some different viewpoints, always positive as far as guns go, but different life experiences. I have Kaya Jones with me, formerly of the Pussycat Dolls. Now she's with Trump's National Diversity Coalition. She is pro-gun. Honestly, to sum her up, I would say that she is pro-God, pro-gun, pro-country. And I'm not putting guns before country. I'm just saying those things are big to her. She's a recording artist, and you may have seen her after the horrific Las Vegas attack. You may have seen her sing God Bless America, which she did a phenomenal job on. But it is so good to have you with us. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, tell me this. I've watched you on Instagram and Twitter and at NRA events. You really enjoy firearms. What is it that you enjoy about them? I see that. I think you have kind of a self-defense appreciation with the firearm, but it also seems like you just enjoy them. So why don't you?
Yes. Well, it started as something because I received ISIS death threats after Route 91. I had started speaking about God a lot on my Twitter, and I received very explicit ISIS death threats of beheaded women and what they wanted to do to me. And, we reported it, of course, to the FBI, but they really couldn't do anything for me. And I just felt at that point that this was not how I wanted to walk around in my day, feeling like something could come after me or being scared. So I wanted to learn about firearms. And so I learned hand-to-hand training. I learned, so fighting and knife training and rifle training and pistol training. And then I just became obsessed with wanting to know everything I could about guns. And then in the process of that, starting to hear about the legislation, starting to hear about what people were trying to do to the Second Amendment. And here I am, someone who, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I would never harm anyone, but I'm doing it to protect my life. And my liberty is up for grabs because people think that firearms kill people when it's people that kill people and they use whatever they choose.
Right.
So, anything can become a weapon. So I, in that moment, kind of felt that I needed to start speaking more about my journey, and more women need to understand that this isn't something you should be afraid of. It makes you feel very empowered. It gives you a lot of strength to know that you can combat, and it's an equalizer to anyone that tries to attack you. So I just felt that it was important for me to keep speaking. And in the process, I've really just fell in love with owning multiple guns, and it's addictive like tattoos. And so now I'm just obsessed with them.
Let me ask you a question. Just for women who are listening, Kai, do you carry a revolver or a semi-automatic, or do you rotate? Do you have various guns and some days you're in this mood and some days you're in that mood? What do you do?
I like my Gen 4 Glock 19. That's my everyday gun. So I like a bigger gun. Revolvers, I think, are great, especially for a first-time firearm for a woman, because it's kind of very keep it simple, stupid in the method that it's used. Personally, I would say go with a Glock, but if women aren't okay with that, then maybe go with, Smith & Wesson. They have a lot of good ones too. Their shield is great. But for my everyday, I like my Glock. Right. I have multiple Glocks, from Glock 43 to a couple Glock 19s, and I'm also getting my AA-12 at the end of the year, and I have a rifle pistol, so I like a bunch of guns.
Well, the thing about the Glock 19 that I like, number one, it goes bang every time. Number two, you can put a lot of rounds in it. And by that I mean, some people don't think about this, but there's always a chance that you're going to face multiple attackers, and if you do, I like having more than 10 rounds. And with the Glock 19, you're carrying 15. If you count the one in the hole, you're counting 16. And correct. So, sometimes having that bigger firearm with more rounds, it gives you a degree of confidence. That's just my opinion. Yeah,
no, it does. And, when I got my full conceal, that I was able to get a 33 mag for that one, which was nice because, for when especially when you're training and you're going to the range and stuff, mag thumb is very real for women. If you have not shot a firearm or loaded a magazine, which is why it's great to have a mag loader, but it's tedious to put them in all the time. And so it's nice to have more than just 10 rounds. 15 is great, but full conceal, I was able to get a 33 mag with that. And so that was nice because that gives just a little bit more when you're training, especially. And you don't know if you're ever in an attack. I think people really don't have any idea what could happen any time of day, at any time your life could be put in danger. And I think what's unfortunately sad in this country is people are reactive instead of proactive. So proactive is, I want to learn how to protect myself before I get harmed. I want to have an alarm for my home before it has a break-in. And unfortunately, in this country, we do all those things after we've been harmed or after our home has been broken into, and that's just too late at that point.
You're exactly right. At Breitbart, I write almost every day on a self-defense gun use. And usually I'll pick that story out of 2 or 3, but there are that many options that Americans have to defend themselves, and many times those defending themselves are women. And see, when you speak, what I hope people hear, it's important. You can't predict where it's going to happen. You can only be prepared for it if it does. And that's really what you're saying that's so clear. I mean, what would you stress Particularly to women? Women who are already thinking, I'm going to get a gun, I'm going to do this. What would you say to them about the benefit you felt when you started carrying?
First, it's, women are the ones that are attacked more than ever, whether it's on campus or when they live alone. Maybe you're not ready for a firearm. Maybe you want a stun gun or a taser or pepper spray, but eventually you'll build up to that firearm. There is nothing more empowering than knowing how to use a firearm. The best part is learning all of the different firearms and becoming seasoned in understanding them, because maybe you don't want to always carry. Maybe you just want to have one at your bedside table, but what if someone comes in with a gun? Don't you want to know what kind of ammo is in that gun, what that gun is? If he put it down, I would know how to use it against him. Right. You need to know what guns are, not for just your own safety, but the safety of others. But if it's your children in the home, if you're a single mom, to me, it is imperative, because women are the fastest growing consumer of firearms, that we learn as much as we can. And what I found out the hard way, because no one told me, is this was a lifestyle change. I just thought I was going to go and buy a gun and get some ammo, and that was it. And that's not what it is. Right. You go and you buy a gun, and then you have to probably get a holster if you're going to do a CCW you're going to carry every day. Understanding what imprinting is, and understanding OODA loop, and understanding situational awareness, and understanding that you need eyes and ears, and going out to the range and getting your accuracy and your grouping together, and finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot, and being understanding of what's your target, and beyond that point, because you're responsible, especially if it's a through and through bullet, it doesn't stop, and It'll go through that person and into the next. And so you need to be advised of what the different ammo is, what the different purpose-driven weapons are, and what's best for you, because it's very personal. But the more that you know, the better you are, because you now aren't green and you just, I've shot a couple times at the range. And the best advice I can give a woman is, it's the best feeling in the world to know how to use a firearm and to become great at it. And then it doesn't matter. When I went to buy my first firearm, it was really funny. Bill, who is a retired police officer who was selling the gun to me at the shop, I was hemming and hawing, like, I don't know which one I want. I don't know if I want the Smith & Wesson. I don't know if I want the Glock 19. I can't decide. And he said, it doesn't matter. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, if you know what you're doing, you only need one. And so that to me was become great at shooting. Right. Just if you only had one bullet, if you only had, whatever firearm you can afford, become great at that, using that, so that is your protection. And that is just an equalizer.
2 things you said that I just want to highlight. We always stress that here, Kai, that you need to practice enough that if you're in a situation under duress, you have to fire that gun. You need to know where the bullet's going, because that builds confidence. If I know where it's going, it builds confidence, and under pressure, I'm able to do what I've practiced. Number 2, what's huge to me is what you said, the word empowerment. I think I hate bullies of any kind. I know that word's overused, so pardon me, but I feel like women by nature are targets because men can overpower them. But when the woman has a firearm, that it's all changed. Not only is she on equal footing, but she can actually control what's happening. And to me, that's the empowerment that is available to women via firearms.
Yeah, well, no, it really, you're 100% right. It really is. And the other thing that I want to stress with people is you learn in the process with getting a CCW, and everyone I think should try and take that course. You learn actually about the law, and you learn about our police men and women and the words to use with them and how to conduct yourselves around them, because now you understand that they too carry a firearm every day, and they too have to understand about situational awareness. So when I did that course, I walked away going, I'm never going to antagonize a police officer again, or be rude or disrespectful, or even talk back again, because you realize that they're working in an orange state in the, in the color spectrum of, and you'll learn that if you take a course, what the color spectrum is and the OODA loop is, but they're working in an orange state constantly. And so they're ready to react if you show any weirdness to them.
Right.
And so people don't even understand that they're not working in a white state of la 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 like yourself and I, and we're walking around in a yellow or white state. They're walking in a very heightened awareness state. And so you have to be aware of them too now. And so it just teaches you a regard for the system and for a firearm. It's not just about the gun.
That's awesome. Kyle, thanks for making time to be with us, folks. Where can folks go? I know you're on Instagram. I know you're on Twitter. Where else could they go if they want to read more about you, your love for handguns, your work with President Trump? Where could they go?
Yes. KayaJones.com, or just at Kaya Jones on any of my social media. And I'm doing a lot more with the NDC and also with President Trump's Facebook coming up with Laura. So lots more to come for sure.
That's awesome. Folks, you're listening to Bullets with AWR Hawkins. We'll be back after this.
Breitbart News Tonight with Joel Pollack and Rebecca Mansour.
A lot of people not knowing what action they could or should take to make the difference. What I do is try to turn people on to sites like Breitbart, people who are writing and publishing the truth so that people will get educated. But, you kind of can't blame productive members of society who are kind of confused, perplexed as to what do we do to take this government back.
Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125. This is Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here once again is AWR Hawkins.
Welcome back to Bullets with AWR Hawkins. Folks, did I tell you Kyle was going to be worth listening to or what? Just great. I mean, it's just great. You see somebody who comes from that area of life, that entertainment lifestyle, and appreciates guns as she does, and understands the importance of firearms as she does, and especially the way firearms empower women. And it just loved having her on, and I hope you enjoyed it a lot. The governor in Montana, I want to hit on this before I touch on my Second Amendment in action stories. The governor in Montana, a hunting mecca, right? The governor wants to prohibit Montana citizens from buying or possessing quote unquote assault weapons. In other words, commonly owned semi-automatic firearms. Now keep in mind that guns like AR-15s, AR-10s, and others, these guns are now a norm. They're standard for hunting. So in a place that has a hunting economy like Montana, a state of outdoor sports, you have a governor, Steve Bullock, who wants to tell residents, no, you can't have these commonly owned semi-automatic firearms. What are you folks in Montana thinking about? How do you have a governor like this? Now, I know what he's thinking about. He's thinking about running for president in 2020. And, I like the fact that he's talking gun control because it already means he's going to lose. But I hate that he's talking gun control for the citizens of Montana because you deserve better. All right? You really, really do. This week's Second Amendment in action stories, we had a number of them. We had a number of such stories, and it's important to cover them. All right? Because as I always say, when I start this podcast each week, and I said it this week no differently, an armed citizen is a free citizen. Now, why would I say that? I say it because people who are armed, individuals who are armed, are able to defend their liberty, and not only their liberty, but their lives, okay? And so it's just important that we stress these things. Now, we had a suspect allegedly armed with an assault rifle. 2 suspects walked into a pharmacy. And when they walked into the pharmacy, the pharmacist pulled a revolver. Now, if you listen to the left talk, of course, when the 2 suspects walk in with the assault rifle, it's over, because that's the most powerful weapon ever made, you know. The pharmacist pulls a revolver, and the suspects fled as he fired. Folks, this is how it's supposed to work. And this story is a good story to make the point that you need to use your firearm, whatever firearm you carry. You need to shoot it regularly at the range, get acquainted with it, know where the bullets are going to go, so you're confident with it. Because even if the other guy has a quote-unquote assault rifle, assault weapon, when you pull the revolver, if you have the confidence, you can win the day. And this pharmacist proved it. Folks, this story is brought to you by the Second Amendment. Folks, we had another story. In Indiana, a suspect tried to rob a convenience store, and unbeknownst to him, a number of the customers inside the store were armed. And when he pulled out his gun, he got shot multiple times. It's just that simple. Multiple times. Right? Or I should say shot at multiple times. Let me correct myself. Shot at multiple times. But one of the shots proved fatal. Folks, this story is brought to you by the Second Amendment. And always keep in mind as we cover these stories that Gabby Gifford says self-defense gun uses are a myth. And the New York Times on January 12th, 2017, I'll never forget the date, January 12th, 2017, the New York Times said that concealed carry permit holders rarely use guns to stop crime. Folks, this week there was a 15-year-old girl. She saw her mom being choked out. Her 12-year-old brother, this is at their home where the attack is happening. Her 12-year-old brother goes and retrieves a gun, brings it to the 15-year-old girl, who then shoots and kills the attacker to save her mother. Let that soak in. 12-year-old son goes and gets the gun, brings it to the 15-year-old daughter. The 15-year-old daughter shoots the attacker in the chest and saves her mother. Folks, that's freedom. Shaking hands over generations there. The mother's 15-year-old daughter saving her. Folks, this story is brought to you by the Second Amendment. Folks, thanks for listening to Bullets with AWR Hawkins this week. Get your friends, your family members, your coworkers to go to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast. It downloads for free every Tuesday. And, you know, as they listen, have them go back to the main page on the podcast and have them give us some reviews. We need all the 5-star reviews we can get. And until we're together next time, folks, please always keep in mind, always remember, more guns equal more freedom.
Breitbart News Daily with Alex Marlowe.
Jeannie in Pennsylvania.
I think he's gotten away from what we really hired him to do, which is draining the swamp. If you look at the real picture of draining a swamp, you go in and you take all the water out of it. What does it leave? It leaves the gunk. He cannot get rid of the gunk. We have to get rid of the gunk. Everything he's doing, he's lowering the water so we can see who needs to go. The only way they can go is if we vote them out.
Breitbart News Daily, weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Patriot 125.